Okay, so as well as the Palace R, you brought in a couple of prototypes, which if you want to take us through.
So when we changed factories last year, we wanted to concentrate on our mainstream bikes that were doing what our customers were asking for predominantly, and that was the Palace R and a winter bike, which is what we did with the stainless steel Layhams. So we've had 2 caliper bikes for sale for a while, but behind the scenes, obviously, when we started, we've had disc bikes in the range from the very beginning. Firm believer in discs for a variety of things. So these are 2 prototypes in different degrees of readiness. Layhams is, we've had a caliper brake version, so it's a long drop caliper brake that fits bigger tyres, or it fits mud guards, and it's a classic. It's a kind of contemporary take on a classic winter bike, so modern geometry, modern tubing, but kind of like Audax for the super beards of the world. And this is something, when we started the Layhams, we wanted to do a disc and a non-disc version of it right from the get-go. And this is the disc version. It's kind of second generation of prototype now, pretty much fully ready to go. All the standards have settled down now, so it's 12mm front and back through axles, flat mounts front and rear. And this has got 30C Strada Bianchas in it, and as you can see, there's
Plenty of clearance.
Plenty of clearance on that. So triple butted stainless steel. You get all of the kind of benefits of a nice steel feel. You get a little bit more stiffness, no rust, and a much stiffer bike than titanium.
Yeah.
The reason we went with stainless rather than titanium for this sort of thing, because there's a lot of Thai bikes that are really nice, like the Kinesis Gran Fondo, and there's loads of stuff around that make gravel Thai bikes, but I always wanted them to have a real punch when you're riding them, sort of keep a performance edge to them, and you definitely get more of that with stainless than you do with titanium. At a given size, you can make titanium that stiff, but it ends up being heavier than a stainless steel bike, or less comfortable to ride than a stainless steel bike. Few little external headset. Not really over keen on thin steel tubes and an internal headset. There's a little bit too much potential for damaging a much more expensive frame with thinner walls. As on the aluminium frames, there's a bit more material there to kind of resist that stuff. So, and also it allows you to put a really nice Chris King headset in if that's your thing. And people who are building these up are building them up with really nice parts. You know, so you can have a once in a lifetime bike, never rusts, all that sort of thing. Little nod to the past, little pump peg on the head tube. Every bike apart from a 50 will have a pump peg. There's just not enough room in there. Similarly, we will have a chain pip down there on the production bikes. Like the Palace, removable cable guides. So they'll come off, put a cover on, Di2, really straightforward build. One of our test riders said it was the easiest Di2 build he's ever done. We made sure that all the holes in the bottom bracket shell and the ends of all the tubes are plenty big enough that you can get your fingers in properly, because we've all been there where you've got a little tiny hole and you're trying to fish something out, or you're
with a torch in your mouth.
We're working on the final paint finishes of these a couple of days ago. So this will be available. It's going to be 1,700, give or take 50 quid either way. So it's about 100 quid more than a standard Layhams is going to be. I mean, it's a little bit more expensive with the through axles and stuff that will come with it. It will come with a token headset, seat clamp, all the parts for everything, through axles, things like that. There's going to be 2 colour options, like a British Racing Green and a very dark grey. So kind of keeping the traditional look. It will be a paint job similar to the steel Layhams that we've got at the moment, with exposed stainless and paint, but a different sort of take on the same thing. And they weight wise, without the through axles, it comes in, depending on the size, between 17 and 1850, something like that. I mean, it's never going to be a crazy light bike because it's stainless steel. But you know, it's within 100 grams of everything else of its ilk.
Different fork compared to the rim
Yeah.
brake version.
As I was saying, we worked on layups and stuff with the Palace fork, and it's the same fork manufacturer that uses the same crown across all of the forks we're doing now. But the difference is primarily in the bottom of the leg in terms of shape. So the fork length is 380 as opposed to 375, so you get an extra 5mm of height for clearance, so you get bigger rubber in. The layup is different for the braking stress. Obviously, you've got to resist. You've got to bulk it up around a flat mount anyway. You've also got to put a bit more strength around the mudguard mounts. We've raised the mudguard mounts compared to the original Pilgrims as well, because you just get a bit more room around sort of if people are running a 160 post mount caliper on a flat mount, it ends up quite a big unit, so we've kind of raised it up. You kind of custom bend your mudguard stays and things like that. Not 100% certain on what through axles we're going for at the moment. We're kind of debating whether or not to do just simple Allen keys because they're clean and simple, or whether to have removable or a DT and this. And so that's one thing we haven't 100% confirmed yet, but we're looking at, this is going to be open for pre-sale within the next probably 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. And from one pretty much finished prototype onto a work in progress. This is the Pilgrims Project X, which is it's the second iteration from our new aluminium factory. The original Pilgrims is a really great, well-received bike. And what people said they wanted was the same, bit lighter, bit more room for money, and again, return of the thread, so threaded BB, because that was something that, especially when people are doing off-road stuff, they very much found that there was a lot more potential for issues with creaking. We're kind of like Layhams and the Layhams Disc. We're looking at we're creating a window of tyre clearance around a 32. It's not a gravel bike or whatever genre defining thing you want to describe it as that. And we've always described it as road plus, because it's kind of like a road bike plus a bit. That's all it is. It's primarily a bike for riding on the road, that when you see something fun, you're like, where does that go? And you can just nip off down there and go down there. And if you're running 28s all the time, which you've got the room to do, you never have a problem. But if you want to have a day off exploring and going, I'd come down and see you and ride in the kind of gravel lanes and up by the White Horse, stick a set of 32s on, go all day, ride it around Kielder, that sort of stuff. Again, much like the new Palace R, we've gone 6069, aluminium tubing, thin walls, bi-oval down tube, same flare square seat tube, same tubing profile as the Palace R, but different butt lengths. But primarily the difference is in the back end. Obviously, disc brakes, you need a longer chainstay anyway to get the chain line, so it doesn't keep popping off the front ring. But you also need the length in it for stability and also for tyre clearance. So we're kind of 418 to 422 depending on the size of the frame, rather than the flat seat stays on the Palace R to resist the torsional twisting loads you get from a disc brake. It's just a simple round shaped sort of tapers out round seat stays, and obviously the chain stays are different, again for braking force and for clearance and things like that. It's pretty much it's kind of rectangular but shape to give you crank and heel clearance into a forged flat mount slotted through axle, so as you pull the through axle into it, it just slots straight into the slots, pops the axle in, and you go. There's no fighting for it. The good thing about that is the brake rotor goes straight into the caliper as well. There's only one place it can go. And unlike the Layhams Disc, there's quite a few changes here. I mean, if you can, when you kind of have a close look, you can see that sort of one of the reasons you get prototypes made up is to mark up if your cable guides are in the wrong place, what you want to change here, if you need to add a little crimp here or some shape here. Making sure cable routing is perfect. I mean, this hole could be a little bit further up, so the cable run here is a little bit smoother. We've got removable cable stop here, like on the Palace, so that it's full cable outer, just stops here, and if you're running it Di2, you just use that. That's where your blanking plate and hole is going to be for front mech. Cable through the forks, same fork on the Pilgrims as the Layhams Disc. they share geometry completely across
Yep.
the two. So we don't really have a finalised name for it. It's Project X at the moment, just because we don't know what it's going to be
Yeah.
called. We don't want to call it Pilgrims X because it's not a cross bike. We don't want to call it Pilgrims R because it's not a road bike, and we're kind of figuring out what it is, but that's just the name.
Yeah.
But
And this is version 1. You say
this is
prototype.
version 1. We've already got the drawing signed off for the second generation. End of May, we should have full painted production versions of those painted in the UK and ready, open for pre-order. I mean, we've already got a mailing list set up for that. There's information on our website about this and signing up for mailing lists and things like that. But yeah, again, this will probably be launched a little bit bizarrely, a little bit before that, just because of the way things have worked out and lead times with aluminium versus stainless steel.
Okay, excellent.
And pricing wise, like the Palace, it's just a nudge up, so it's going to be probably around 800 as opposed to 750 of the original.
Excellent.
So
Okay, so we'll keep an eye out on what's happening with these various versions, and keep you updated, and keep an eye out for the review of the Palace R sometime soon.